I'm introducing you to Barnaby, who has been traveling non-stop for 2 years and is down to 2 bags. He's been an entrepreneur for 20 years, and we met last week. He came to the salon organizer's lunch and said, "Oh yeah, I guess I have something interesting to talk about." And I heartily agree. Barnaby's first trip ever overseas was to India, and his takeaway from that was, well, I didn't die, so I could do this some more. And he's going to give us an amazing talk tonight. In salon tradition, we're going to welcome Barnaby as though you've just heard the most mind-fulfilling, earth-shattering, world-changing talk of your entire life. It's just whooping and cheering and clapping and ovations.
Before you've even begun.
Before you've even begun. Wow. We're going to get you in the zone. So welcome, Barnaby.
I'm as excited as all of you just revealed just then, even if you aren't. I'm very excited to talk to you tonight. And we're going to make this quite interactive. I'm just going to talk for a little bit at first, and then I'll open up the floor and you can ask me any questions. But I probably should give you some things to ask you questions about. So that's why I'm going to start by talking. And so yes, as Adric said, I'm now down to 2 bags. This is me, got 2.5 bags. I've got this little one I carry around as well. So, and I've been traveling the world. These are the places I've been, starting in Australia, because that's why I've got this funny accent. And that was in December 2012, when I went down to Sydney. And I started off by doing a little trial of leaving my home, in which I'd been in Brisbane for 18 years, and going down to Sydney for a couple of months. So what any of you are thinking tonight, like, oh my goodness, how can this guy, travel the world non-stop for more than 2.5 years, be down to 2 bags, and that just kind of sounds crazy. So you don't actually even, but if you're at all interested in this, and you think, I wouldn't mind trying this on, you could just do a little test run. You could just see what it's like to go and live somewhere else, maybe for a few weeks or a couple of months. Because what I'm here to tell you is that the rules have changed dramatically in these last few years, thanks to those little amazing gadgets that we all carry around. Now, I know most of us are just chatting away on them, looking on Facebook and stuff, but you can actually use this little tool as a passport to traveling anywhere you want in the world and needing to own very little. Now, let me tell you, how many people here would like to live like a millionaire and just travel the world endlessly? Like only half of you, all the others shouldn't. Because I can tell you now, you can actually do that for between $20,000 to $40,000 a year. Living like a millionaire, traveling the world. Does that kind of sound interesting? Yeah, one of my friends does it for 20 grand a year. I do it for about 40. And so, because now the thing is, that actually doesn't work if you live in one place, particularly a Western country. So what I'm here to tell you is that if you live in one place, typically in the US, which is where we all are now, it's going to cost you to have, just think about it. If you want to have like a really high standard of living, where you, let's say, are eating out at your favorite restaurants every week, getting somebody to do all of your laundry, clean your home, drive you around the place, live in a nice place, how much is that going to cost you? A year?
200 grand?
Whoa, 200 grand, okay. Yeah, I was thinking like maybe 100, but like 200 grand. So there you go. So like that's, anybody here earning 200 grand a year? No. So what if I could tell you that you could live just like that, what Adric said, for about $8,000 a year, living in Thailand over here? How cool is that? Because you can rent yourself a brand new studio apartment with a gym downstairs. Like I'm telling you, this is brand new, so it's all shiny and everything. There's a gym downstairs, there's a swimming pool, you walk out the door, there's beautiful restaurants everywhere, and that's going to cost you $1,500 a year. Now, this ain't what they tell you, is it? I'm here to tell you that what they tell you is a lie. What they tell you is a lie. And they do not want me to speak about this because, firstly, it'll destroy perhaps the economy if everybody started doing this. Now, people criticise me. They say, Barney, if everybody did what you did, nothing would ever get done. It's all well and good for you to be travelling the world doing whatever you want, but if everybody else is doing that, nobody be doing the garbage and being a waiter and being a farmer, and absolutely. And you know what? Hardly anybody wants to do what I do. And I'm not here to actually even recommend it. You don't have to be as extreme as me, and I get this is pretty extreme. You don't have to go all that way. You could just take a few leaves out of my book. But because what the system is here to tell you, and the system is designed to make the system to keep on working. But what it's here to tell you is to basically be a little worker bee, like a little worker ant, and wants you to be all sort of educated and all trained up and basically to be in debt and to keep the oil machine running for everybody else. So ask yourself, does it really have your best interest at heart? I mean, what happens when you finish an amazing degree here at Stanford? What situation are you typically in? What's the situation most people walk out of here? What kind of situation are they in?
Unemployed.
Unemployed, and one other thing.
In debt.
And in debt! Okay, cool. I mean, I've met people who are like 30 years old in this country who are in $250,000 of debt, and they don't even own an asset. I mean, this is kind of crazy. And you know, I've met people who've been through all that whole process, 12 years at school plus a degree, and they're not primed to actually look after themselves in the world. So what has this whole education system done? Has it really prepped them to create a life on their own terms? Because that's what we're really talking about here. What would it be like if you created a life on your own terms? And because we've got this amazing planet. So I want you to start thinking. I'm saying a lot really quick because I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to open it up to you to ask me questions. But what if you start thinking about this planet that we're on, which is pretty big, isn't it? It's a pretty big planet. Now, what you've also all been told is that it's scary. Yeah? It's a pretty scary place, particularly outside of the US. Like this is this really safe zone, and especially if you go down south to places like Mexico or other places, like if you go to Asia and maybe Thailand, all these places that have coups and all these crazy things going on, that this is extremely dangerous, and even though it's very cheap and the climate's very nice and the people are very sweet, don't go there. Stay here. Even though the stats reveal that the US is basically the most dangerous country on the planet. So you can just look some of that stuff up, it's pretty freaky, I'm not going to tell you all about that. But yes, so we're already living in the most dangerous country on the planet. And so really would it be such a big extreme thing to do, to go and maybe live somewhere else, try it out for a while? Because every dollar that you spend here in the US can take you 3 to 4 times further in somewhere like Mexico. Or even further, like living somewhere like Thailand, about 5 times further. Isn't that amazing? So then the next thing you're thinking is, well, that all sounds well and good, but how on earth am I going to do that? Because you still need to be making money, isn't that right? Like, you still need to basically go and eat and all these sort of things. So that reveals the next critical key in this whole sort of jigsaw puzzle, which is location-independent income. So you need to have a structure set up that will provide you with an ongoing income stream that no matter where you were, money would keep rolling in. Because that's really a key. Now that's right, coming back to education. What they taught you to do was to basically get yourself a job and anchor yourself to a particular place and get yourself in debt, which is just going to keep the whole thing spinning along, which is all very well and good for the society. But is it really very good for you? Now it may well be. And if you want all of that, I salute you and applaud you. So seriously, again, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not here to sell you, come and be like me. No. If you want to do that, that's great. But I wanted to be free. I wanted to be completely free to do whatever I wanted. Now, just out of interest, does that appeal to anybody in the room? Only about 3 people. That's maybe 4. That means it's not. Okay, so then you're just out of curiosity, you're kind of listening to me. Well, that's cool as well. So, because if you did want to be free, then even if you wanted to be free to choose this or not, having some of these structures in place would be useful for you, because then you could basically live in the same place where you want to live and go to the job that you want to go to. But you could have an income that would be coming in regardless. It would expand your mind so you wouldn't feel locked into anything, as well as it would just give you the money to sort of go to more restaurants or go to more parties or do whatever else you want to do. So I think some of well for me, the easiest and best way to do that is online. So because when I first started working with computers, which was quite some time ago in the early 90s, before the internet actually, I could see a time before the internet that there would be something like the internet where you could actually work anywhere in the world. And that really appealed to me. And then it did take me a while to get around to it, but I had the skill set, I built the skill set over that whole time to enable that to actually happen. So I focused and built all the skills, and now, believe it or not, it's actually easier than ever. It's never been so easy as it is now. This is like the best of times. This is the absolutely best of times for so many reasons. International travel is insanely cheap. We have all these incredible apps. Like I arrive in a new city, and I'm all over that city in 2 to 3 weeks. It takes me about that long to feel like I'm settled. thanks to about 6 apps. So thanks to Tinder, I'm able to go with girls. Thanks to Meetup, I'm able to get to groups like this and meet people. Thanks to Uber, I'm able to basically live without a car. I can just call one up and there it is, I don't need to own a car. Thanks to Airbnb, I don't need to own a home. I just live in a place which has got an amazing fridge and a TV and a bed and all these things. Thanks to Yelp, or my other favourite one, Happy Cow, which is a vegetarian Yelp, because I'm a vegetarian, often. Sometimes I sort of eat a bit of fish. But those apps enable me to find restaurants that I can go and eat at some of the best. So instantly a city opens itself up to me when I get there. So when you arrive in a new place, it needn't be terrifying, because you can pull out this little amazing gadget and suddenly the city opens up to you. And again, so that's why I'm saying times have changed, because it wasn't like this before. There wasn't a situation, So these little gadgets, they just came out from 2007 onwards, but they only really started to come into their prime from about 2010. So we've had about 4 or 5 years of this amazing situation that we're living in. And most people aren't taking advantage of it. Very few are taking advantage of it. And it's right there for the taking. So thanks to technology, thanks to the incredible prices of air travel, and the ability to just walk into people's homes and make new friends, and work online with all these opportunities, because you can, if you made like $1,000 a month working online, which is not too hard to do. There's a number of ways you can do it. I've just written a blog post on my website, learntolivefree.com, which explains, I give 11 strategies of how you can do that. And I have a whole series of business rules on how to pick opportunities as they come across your path. I've got 22 little business rules that I use to assess projects as they come along. So that's like an overview of how I live, which was part of the sort of the little request I was given by Barnaby. Talk about what you do and how you do it. And as you can see, there's like a lot of content there, isn't there? There's a lot of material inside all of those topics. So I guess I saw somebody raising their hand, wanted to ask a question. So why don't we just get straight into that?
I had kind of more of a comment that resonates with what you talk about. One of my friends, Balaji, created teleport.io, and he's helping people be more nomadic. And he has this quote: "It's make your living on the internet, and then use the internet to decide where to live." And so it's very much continuing to what you're talking about. I as well am interested in things like digital currencies and how these can help bring down more of these borders, either between currencies, between languages, things like this. So it's really cool to see what you're doing. So thank you.
Interesting. Just on that, when you said like this, using the internet to decide where you live. So I actually also, this is maybe a little bit off topic, but it is to do with how I live. I don't really make a lot of decisions or choices. I went to a party a few months ago, because I was living in Mexico for the previous 5 months, and I've just come to the US in the last 2 months. And somebody said to me, "It must be quite exhausting being you, having to make so many decisions all the time." And I said, "No, it's not exhausting at all. I don't make any decisions." And she was completely shocked. And she said, "Why?" I said, "Well, I just listen, and I just get the instructions on what to do." And she said, "Oh, I never do that. I never listen to that." And I said, "Oh, that must be quite exhausting." And she said, "Yes, it is." So that's kind of like how I like to live, because like at the moment, just today, I made a plan for the next month, which sometimes I actually leave it up till the very last day about what I'm about to do, which again I'm not recommending to people, because it takes a certain fortitude to be able to do such a thing, but I find it a lot of fun. And so today I just worked out, well, I'm going to sort of leave San Francisco in about a week and a half. I'm going to go down to San Diego. I'm going to pop up to Encinitas. I'm going to stay there for about a week, and then I'm going to cross the border down into Mexico, and I'm going to hang out in a little town there for the next couple of weeks and meet up with some friends. And how did I make all those choices? Because I had about 3 people inviting me to different things at the same time, and I started seeing a pattern. And that's what I look for in how I live. I look for patterns, because when I see the patterns showing up, I'm like, oh, that's the next thing to do. And so I allow those patterns to dictate and lead me where the place is to go. And often it comes from invitations. And there's incredible opportunities that show up from this. Because the reason I've given up planning and making goals, which obviously sounds like an insane thing to do, is life starts happening way better than anything I would possibly come up with. Having the goal of speaking here at Stanford to all of you people, I couldn't even think of that. And look what happens. And this just happens to me on a daily basis. So that's why I just gave it up. I was like, well, I'm just going to let this thing take me where it wants to go, because it's so much more interesting than anything else I've come up with. And so that's another thing I guess I'd like to talk about. But if there's other questions over here.
I have one very practical question. So one thing that has discouraged me from a lot of travel is feeling like language would be a big barrier.
Right. Well, you already speak the best language on the planet. Absolutely.
So has that come up at all? Have you had problems because you were in an area and couldn't communicate?
Exactly. So let's just go through. So obviously, Australia is a super easy place to live, like the US. But then Bali, well, they speak a different language there, and then moving to Thailand and living in Chiang Mai, different language again, and then Germany, and Berlin, and then Amsterdam, and then Paris, and Canada, and the US. That's easy. But then Mexico with Spanish, and back to the US, and so forth. So these, I don't speak any other language, which is still completely ridiculous. Like, especially after living in Mexico for 5 months, I didn't know I was going to be there for 5 months. I thought I was going to go there for like a month or two, and I thought, well, there's not much point in learning Spanish. But if I knew I was going to be there for 5 months, so the next time, so a new little thing I want to start putting in place is when I get to a place, start learning the language, because who knows how long I'm going to be there, because I don't really know. And so that's, but because of English, it's extreme, where we can be extremely lazy, because wherever I go in the world. So have you been to any of these countries?
No.
No. So you said this is a fear of yours.
Right.
So what would actually be kind of cool is if people wanted to voice their fears. Only if they wanted to, because I love that. I love hearing people's fears, because then we can look at them and deconstruct them. And some of them will definitely be valid. But one of them being not being able to speak the language. Well, I didn't have any issues at all. So even in places like Mexico, where English is somewhat prevalent, especially obviously in places like Mexico City, but in a lot of the outskirts, people don't speak English at all. And typically I'll get into a taxi and the taxi driver doesn't speak English, or the bus driver, you know what I mean? So how does one get to where one wants to go? How does one order the meal that one wants and one doesn't speak the language? Well, you know, sign language, just pointing to things and making funny noises and having a little app and showing somewhere on a map, and these things can all help. Finding, often just sort of requesting and finding a local who does speak both English and the language, there's plenty of those around. And so I would always find somebody in Thailand like that, or in Mexico. It was never a problem. I never found, English actually just, as I said, it made me lazy, because I'm able to get anywhere. And I haven't been everywhere. I've only been to, I don't know, like 28 countries or something. So that certainly isn't true of all the countries, I'm sure, but it's true of like a lot of them. And I would say, so if one learns Spanish as well, like those two languages will cover you pretty much just across so much of the globe. I would say that those two are obviously key languages to learn. Yes, Mike.
So what are the variables you choose when you make a decision, or someone else helps you make a decision, on where to go next? So whether it is optimizing for fun, or for exploration, or for potential profit, or what kinds of things are you sort of, this is a good idea because I care about X, Y, and Z?
Great question. So, and it comes back to what I was saying earlier about thinking about the planet in a different way. So, and cities in different ways. So I look at the planet as an opportunity, and each place offers different things, and depending upon my current resources and what I'm currently up to. So the US is a great place to come to make money, because there's lots of money here. But this place also sucks money. You know, it's very expensive. So I kind of swoop into places like this, make some money, and then, so I like to make my money in dollars, and then I'll leave and spend it in pesos. So now, so the context, so each country, each city has a certain context. So when I understand the context of why I'm there, the city opens up in a different way. And because I start working the city in that particular context. Now, I get that most people actually don't see the planet like this, but this is actually kind of what's available to us. I mean, that's the other thing. You are insanely privileged. I mean, the crazy thing is, none of you, or maybe none of you, but I would assert that probably you do not understand how privileged you are. Because it's all well and good to kind of say, well, yes, you know, I know I'm very privileged. But you just like, it's crazy what you can do. By the fact that you speak English, by the fact that you are living here, the fact that you know how to use a computer, just those few things alone mean that you can sort of, the context for the world opens up where you can actually look at it and go, so what would happen if I went and lived here? And what would that mean? And so when basically when I'm wanting to make more money, I will basically go and live in a particular place like New York City or San Francisco and work that. Once, if I want to go and chill out for a while, I'll go and live in Thailand. And just, you know, my money's going to go much further. I'm going to have a much more relaxing time. If I want to go and start doing some more meditation, maybe I'll go to Thailand or India. But when people because I just kind of live from listening and looking for the patterns, people will start suggesting things, and I'll go, oh, that's quite interesting, and then I find that somebody else will suggest something very similar, and then it's like a little path that starts to unfold. And so by following that path, it will lead me basically wherever I need to go. And I know that sounds pretty cosmic, but I find it actually quite practical, and it's been working really well. So yes, another question.
So I really like how you're talking about listening as a way to figure out what to do next. But have you ever met anyone or been in a situation where they lead you astray, or someone tries to take advantage of you? Because that's one of my fears of traveling.
Sure.
When you meet the wrong person.
A great question. So when somebody could potentially lead you down the wrong path, and it could actually become quite hazardous and dangerous, especially being a woman, definitely. And so, okay, again, to be completely blunt, I'm a man, and I'm white, and I speak English, and I'm well educated, and it just stacks again up. Just like I get this privileged position. There's nothing I can do about it. It's just so I kind of just own that. But I understand, and I know I've got friends who are women who travel solo, and they go all around the world, and it does take more. It takes more guts to do that for sure. And so I can't possibly actually understand what you are up against. I don't understand that, because I understand it intellectually, but I can't have an appreciation for it. So, but me still, there's still people who want to do things to me, for sure, definitely. And because when I walk around in India, I've got an ATM on my forehead, definitely. It's like, here's an ATM, what can we do to this guy? And there's nothing I can do about that. I've got friends who actually are Indians, but they're well-educated Westerners, and the Indians can feel them out instantly. So the way they even walk down the street, they might look like an Indian, but they are not. They're a Westerner, and so basically the locals can feel who they are, and that's what they told me. And I was like, wow, so this sort of thing, people can get the sense of your position in the planet. So I had one, and I don't really want to put you off, because I totally love Mexico, and I know that people are typically in the US are completely terrified of Mexico, and I only had one scary experience in Mexico, and please do not. So imagine living there for 5 months, and only one time actually something went slightly bad. And I've got friends who've moved here to the US for a while, and they've had plenty of things stolen off them and terrible things. And has anybody here actually had a scary experience living in the US? Yeah, okay, great. And so we're still here in the US, we're still all sort of fine. Hopefully we're fine. So one night I got off the plane in Mexico City, and foolishly I didn't call an Uber, and I didn't actually go and get one of these certified little receipts for a taxi, which is what you ought to do. So when you get off at the plane in Mexico City, you just walk up and you just pay the counter, and they give you a little receipt, and you walk out and you go to one of the designated taxis. I don't know why I didn't do that one night, because I flew into the city many times, and that's why I always did. I just walked out, and this random taxi driver just pulled up, calling me, and I just went to him. It was quite curious why I did that. And then I got into the taxi, and he didn't speak any English, and that was all fine. I was cool with that, and I gave him the address of where I wanted to go, and he seemed very confident he could take me there. And then he started demanding, actually, in the taxi to be paid, which is very strange. So here's some rules about being, because I do want to encourage you to go to Mexico. It's a great place, but there are some rules about taxis there. You don't pay, obviously, before you get there, and the light should be on inside the taxi, because people driving around at night, that's how everybody can keep a tab on everybody else. They kind of use that as a safety mechanism, because people can see you in the taxi, everybody knows you're safe there. And he got me to get my calculator out, and he wanted to get 900 pesos just to go to the local address, when it's normally 100 pesos or 120. And I'm like, sorry, dude, that's just not happening. And then I started looking at the map, because of the little GPS, and we were going in a different direction. And then he was on the phone all the time. And so I started thinking, hang on, this is not working out so great. And I had my 2 bags with me, and we were on this highway, and eventually he slowed down, and I just opened up the door and jumped out. And so I just got out on the freeway. Because what was that?
What was the bag?
With my bags.
You don't leave your bags.
Yeah, because this is another thing. So in my travel, so basically there's a few tricks. So whenever getting into a taxi in any particular place, because all my possessions, my whole world is in these 2.5 bags, everything. So I would put them with me on the seat. Does that make sense? Because if I put one in the boot, so seriously, I had a friend of mine who was living in San Francisco recently, and he thought he got into an Uber. He called an Uber. He went out the front. He thought it was an Uber. He jumped in. And they said to him, he put his laptop bag on the ground. Remember, this is in San Francisco. He put a laptop in the bag, and they said, "Oh, dude, can you just go and check? I think I left the petrol cap open or something." And he said, "Sure," not even thinking. Opened up the door, stepped out, and as soon as he stepped out the car was gone. And they took his laptop, his phone, everything. And so he just felt it as soon as it was happening. It was already gone, and so he lost everything that night. That was about a month ago. So some of the keys are, whatever luggage you have, you just keep it right with you. And this is obviously even true here. I mean, I've had friends who've just gone into a cafe in New York City and they had $10,000 of camera gear with them on the back of their seat. And after they've finished drinking their drinks, it was all gone. I mean, this sort of thing can happen anywhere. So you really just want to be very astute with, so often when I'm sitting in a cafe, I'll put my bag on the ground and I just wrap the little strap around my leg, just so that nobody can take it. Just little things like that. Yeah.
What's in the bag?
What's in the bag? So I've obviously got some clothes, but I've minimised. So I've been every single possession. So anytime I get something now, I have to weigh up carrying it, and often I'll have to get rid of something in order to keep it. Now, a real key for me is health. It's a priority because really, who here enjoys being sick? Nobody, right? Are you enjoying being sick? Also, who has experienced how completely sucky it is being sick while travelling? Absolutely. Doesn't it completely suck? Because often when you go somewhere, well, it's all new and you wouldn't mind going and checking it out, and you're also a bit bombarded because everything's so new and a bit scary. The last thing you want to do is actually be feeling sick. You actually don't want to be sick at home, but at least at home you've got your comforts. Yeah. So, and also because when you travel, well, it is wearing down the body, yeah, and often, and also new places have got new little bugs in them and all sorts of stuff. And so there's many more opportunities for the body to get a bit worn down, a little bit ill, and that sort of thing. So I just take like a lot of supplements. Like I spend big time every month on all these crazy items, and I'm totally into longevity and crazy kind of concepts like probably people are, some of the tech scene is here. Yes, sir.
Which kind of work are you doing for
Income.
Yeah.
So I work online. I run a marketing and branding company, and so I've got clients. I don't have a lot of clients. The ones I have, they pay very well. I'm also a writer, and I write books, and I create online training programs. So everything I do is online, and it enables me to have a scalable, ongoing income. And so back to the possessions I carry. Obviously, I take my laptop, which is like the key to me to be making money. I've got my phone, which is also like a little computer. The bags I have actually are a key unto themselves. I'm like a snail. So these two bags I have, they're not ordinary bags. This is like the bag. It's like the ultimate bag in the world. And it's from a company called Eagle Creek, and it's got these 5 combinations. Like it can turn into one bag. If I only bought one bag at the airport, it breaks apart into 2. I can carry them both on me, front and back. I can wheel them both along. They spin in all these different incredible directions. They're completely waterproof. They have a lifetime guarantee, so if anything happens to them, I just get it all replaced. And yes, they're expensive. It's about $400. And then I have all these little tiny compartments inside them. So who has experienced when you open up your backpack and everything just falls out and you've got this huge mess? Has anybody ever experienced that? Do you agree that that's pretty sucky? It's completely sucky. I don't like that. I like everything nice and neat. So when I open up my bag, there's like this little packet here. There's this little packet there. Everything's like these little packets. And it's like I have this little wardrobe which instantly opens up, and I've got all my gear nice and neat. I've got all my supplements over here. So because I have so many supplements, when I order, these little bottles that they all come in, jeepers, that is completely a waste of space. So I have all these little Ziploc bags. So I just open up the bottle, pour everything into a Ziploc bag, write a little label, stick it in, and there's my supplements, and they're all organised. And then I have a little bag with all my stocks in it, and a little bag with just everything is in the bags as you get.
So besides the clothes and the stuff you wash yourself with, what about like tech gear, books, etc.?
No books. So basically I have my phone and my iPad. So because I'm also an app developer, I do keep, like I've now got an Apple Watch, I've got an iPad, I've got my iPhone, and yes, I'm an Apple freak as well, and there's my MacBook. And so what that means, because I've got, I run a development in Ukraine, so I have a development team. I have 50 people that work, not just for me, I mean, they work for other companies too, but they're my team. And so that's actually where I make my income. So everything is scalable that I do, and it means that I have a PA who answers all of my emails. So basically what this means is I can now go to a festival. I recently went to Lightning in a Bottle, which was an amazing music festival. Yeah. And I didn't check really very much for about 5 days. And so somebody was answering all of my emails, and my tech team was So, because thinking about the globe, like there's all these completely different economies of scale. And so what people will charge here, you know, $100 an hour, somebody else will do for $10 an hour. And they have a degree and they speak perfect English. And you might be thinking, my goodness, isn't that extortion? But they're putting all their hands up and saying, please pick me. And there's websites where you put a job ad and you've got 20 or 30 or 50 people applying for that. And it's not actually the hassle of you know, not being able to find anybody. It's like, oh my goodness, who do I pick? And so then you hire somebody to help you pick people. that's what I do, because it's too much for me to pick them. And so that's so you don't even actually have to be that techie. You just have to be courageous to be able to do this stuff, because you don't have to know how to program. You don't even have to know how to write. You just need to be able to figure out, have the confidence to talk to people about what you can offer, and then hire the people to do all these things. And yes, that's what makes me an entrepreneur. And it's really just about confidence. And it doesn't start off like that, that's for sure. You know, but as you start to expand and sort of feel that yes, you can do things, you'll start to attract more of that. And just on this topic, like I know that we're in the heart of Silicon Valley here, and the tendency, and again, this is something which people want you to buy into for anybody who's keen to run startups or whatever. And again, this is completely fine. I respect everybody who wants to do things the way they want to do them. That's great. But just an alternative point of view is where I'm staying with a friend at a friend's house at the moment who has a cash burn rate of $100K a month because he's raised his $2.5 million and it's all gone. All of it's gone because he's been running his company for about 2 years to build his app. And so the tendency here is to hire people locally, pay big wages, get lots of investment, and hope it's going to eventually speed into something that's going to work. A completely alternative view, and I'm not saying it's wrong or bad, and he's doing that. That's great. It is very stressful. It is very stressful to live like that because you have to keep on getting lots of money in and paying everybody high wages. And a completely alternative point of view is, well, what if I just outsource everything, which is also very scary until you find an incredible team of people to work with who you completely trust. Because suddenly the costs go down to about 10%. And suddenly, and because everything gets done perfectly, you go, wow, like, this is amazing. Like I don't need as much money. That means I don't have to have as much risk. But it kind of goes against what is being taught here in Silicon Valley, where actually it's about impressing people. See, a lot of this is about impressing people about how much money you spend. So that's what I actually see is happening in society, is people want to impress people about how much money they spend because they have to earn so much to be able to spend so much. A completely radically alternative point of view is, well, what if I just minimized everything and lived rather cheaply, but very, very well, and started scaling on this planet? So that's kind of how I like to do it. And again, this is not right. It's just, I've kind of hacked into a system and like to do it like that. But yes, Kelly, a question.
What are your tips for distributing tasks to your personal assistants or your tech teams instead of being micromanaging?
To distribute tasks?
Yeah, I tell them what to do and break down a big part into small things.
Okay, great question about distributing tasks. So just today, I've got a project management system. There's obviously a bunch of them out there, everything from Basecamp to Asana to there's heaps of them. I'm using one called teamwork.com and I really like that one. It's quite simple, but it has a lot of features in it. So inside of Teamwork, I can share tasks with the team, which is pretty common. I mean, most of them should work like this. So I've got actually a team in the US as well. So I have 2 teams, and I've got my PA, who's also my project manager. And so I'll tell her to oversee the projects, oversee the other 2 teams. And as the emails come in from clients, all the tasks are listed because they're all making these requests. And also I'm making requests for my own projects. And then they just get put in the project management system. And so basically you just want to list everything that needs to get done and keep asking people, ask the client, ask the stakeholders, ask the people who are doing the work, can you think of anything more? What's the milestone? What needs to be done? And so basically it's just methodically putting everything down, doing a brain dump of every task, and then having a couple of people oversee and look over that. It's really, I find that useful for me, is I just can then see what's actually getting done. I can have a little bird's eye view by logging in and seeing all the tasks being ticked off. But it is through having a useful project management system, of which there are many, and you could just check out teamwork.com as an example of that. Yes?
How do you handle, say, long-term relationships with the nomadic lifestyle?
So you mean even friends and so forth? Well, I now have friends spread out all over the world. So keeping in touch with people digitally is obviously very easy these days. Everything from Facebook to WhatsApp to email to all these different apps. So I just basically, because I'm the initiator for the communications typically with everybody, even my family back home. I'm the one who initiates most of the conversations. And so what I will do is, they don't all know this, but I'll write one person, like maybe 2 paragraphs of what's happening for me that fortnight. And I'll go, oh, that's pretty cool. Why don't I just paste that to this person? And I go, why don't I just paste it to, like, my 25 key friends? And so I'll do that. And I'll just say, hi Jeff, hi Sally, and who knows whether they think it is to just specifically them. It is often because they'll think that I've just written it to them, but at least I'm keeping in touch with them. And also when I get to when I'm going to a place like I'm about to go down to San Diego, I've got a friend in San Diego, and so I've already alerted her today, I'm coming down there, it'd be great to see you. And so I make a lot of effort actually. So how do I keep in touch? I make the effort. I send people messages. So every day I'm sending people around the world and locally messages. Like I told probably, I don't know, a dozen people specifically about tonight. They didn't all show up, but a couple of people did. And so what that means is that people know what I'm up to, and I've also the people who I'm working with financially, like the clients in my team, I'm in touch with them, if not every day, then every second day or whatever. So I make sure the relationships are the key. The relationships are everything. And so my week is about keeping in touch with everybody in different ways, and I just make that a priority. Yes.
So where did you find your PA and how did you train her?
Okay, that's a really funny and interesting question. I met her on a Tinder date, to be completely honest. I know, it's completely inappropriate.
In what country?
So she's from the Philippines, but she lives in Canada. And so, now, that was actually her profession. Her profession was a project manager. And I've actually gone through about 4 PAs in the last year, and so I was not trying to pick her at all. I used a service. I found it, because first I was hiring them myself by going to Odesk, which is an incredible site to go and use. So going to Odesk and putting up a job ad and going through all the interviewing process and asking people, and then hiring somebody and finding out that it's not quite the right fit, and then going, oh my goodness, this is a hassle, why don't I just hire a company? And they'll guarantee me somebody, and I have to pay them in advance, and that happened, and I went through 2 people there, and they were hopeless, it was terrible, and I was like, oh my god. And I was like, oh, what about MJ? She was great, and I actually knew her. And that's actually her profession. And so I went with a friend, and she was extremely skilled. And because, back to your question, so I had 1 date with her back in a different country, like 8 months ago, but I probably sent her, I don't know, across those 8 months, 3 messages, not really very many, but enough to keep in touch with somebody. And I said to her, hey, how are things going? She said, I really need some work at the moment, because she wasn't doing her own fulfilling work. And I said, cool, well, I offered her basically like a crazy low rate, and she said to me, yes, and then she said to me the next week, she couldn't do that. And I said, how much do you need to be committed to me? And she told me. And I said, great, well, I'm just going to pay you that. And right now, she's about to lose another job, because she's had mine plus another job, and she said, well, do you think you could raise me up to 30 hours a week? And I said, yeah, I can do that. And so now this is costing me, obviously, some money, but what it means is I have kind of incredible flexibility and freedom. Because now, every week, no matter where I am, all the emails and all the projects are being managed and looked after. And as each week goes by, she knows more and more about the business. So having somebody to actually help me do all this is a complete key. If I want to go to a new place, she can just do all the travel arrangements. So she'll just figure out where the best place to stay on Airbnb is, book the tickets and all that sort of stuff. And I find that very, very helpful. And you might be thinking, oh, this is just like Barnaby's he's rich, I'm actually not a millionaire. And if I told you that my expenses are quite minimal, I don't know how you feel about this, but you could actually start off by hiring somebody to do all of that for you for $5 an hour. Absolutely. There are people who are in this world, who have a degree, who are in a different country to this one, who are hanging out to get paid $5 an hour to do all of that to help you run your business, actually to do anything for you. And yes, it will be painful perhaps for you to find them, because you might have to go through 3 or 4 or more people to actually find the right person. But when you find that person, they're gold. They really are gold. And what if you just paid them, I don't know, a dozen hours a week? 12 times 5, that's $60 a week. That is changing their world, and it could change your world. And then you could say, well, look, I'm happy to pay you more as I make more. I mean, these are just some things to start thinking about, because that's how I live. And I don't know whether you think that's politically correct or not, but it's how the world works. Michael, yes.
If it's all right with everyone, I think it'd be a really good talk to transition to responses on. And so we get to hear back from all of you about what you feel about this and experiences of your own. Does that sound good, Barnaby?
Sounds great.
Awesome. And so responses are, we're going to have 1 minute, and form a line, and so I have a line over right here, and you'll have 1 minute to talk about your response to Barnaby's awesome photographs. So, your hats.
I'm quite enjoyed your talk, and it's a lifestyle that I thought about before. It's a possible thing. You mentioned fears. My biggest fear with this kind of lifestyle is that you're not able to have the kind of connections with people that seem to be reliant on geography and time. So you're not able to get the truly deep connections that will allow you to meet people over years. It sounds like you've been able to make that happen in a lot of ways through the digital technology. But nevertheless, I don't know how well that works. And you mentioned that the entire world list is inside of your 2 bags. I don't think I've ever met anybody who's been able to completely distance themselves from their geographic location, either birthplace or place they eventually decided was home. I don't know if you've managed to do that. That was the question I was hoping to ask you. So if you could talk about that, that would be cool.
Well, you just made it. You just made it. You said you never met somebody who's down to do that? Well, I have. So, I might as well be...
Let's time on Adam.
Okay. Do I respond to that, or...?
If you can get in line. If there's someone in line right now.
Okay.
Then you can respond to it.
Okay, I'll just quickly respond to
And
that.
you'll have 44 seconds.
Okay, so then basically I had my family back in Australia. I had a daughter, and she's actually at college, and I speak to her every fortnight. And so I've maintained that. Well, I've got my parents. I talk to my father. My mother's actually dead. So I've been able to continue all my key relationships by using Skype and seeing their face and doing such things like that. I have all the key possessions I need, which is not very many, because now I'm using, thanks to Uber and Airbnb, I don't need all the things in the home. Everything that was key to me at home, I took a photo of. I digitized my entire bookshelf, and I digitized all my music and all my movies, and everything just went onto the hard drive. That's how I did it.
I feel like the more questions we ask Barnaby, even more questions I have. So I have one question for you is, how do you maintain romantic relationships when you're traveling?
Great question. Oh, I have to...
Can you repeat the question?
Romantic
How
relationship.
do you maintain romantic relationships when traveling?
44 seconds. Okay, so I had a girlfriend. As you can see, she's not here, so I no longer have a girlfriend. And I took her all around the world for 2 years with me, and it was completely great because she trained me from living in a 3-story home where I had absolutely everything, all the nice paintings, all the nice furniture. She said to me, Barnaby, if you really want to do what you're saying you're going to do, you're going to need to get rid of all this stuff. So from 3 stories down to 2, down to 1, and then I took her all around the world. We had a great romance. We traveled all around the world. It was fantastic. And then it wasn't for her, so she left. So now, well, I use things like Tinder. I get to a new place and I'm asking people out on dates straight away. And sometimes I have lovers that last me for 3 or 4 months. It's really kind of hard to answer this question in 40 seconds.
What it made me think about a lot was, and I really enjoyed how you caged everything in, if there are certain things that you really enjoy out of life, this is a way to get some of those things. I think that something I really enjoy out of life is building very ambitious projects, and I would definitely try some more traveling. But I don't know, I think I'd like to hear, are there different types of people maybe that you've met, or you guys are, or you've met, that how people's life goals and reward structure relate to doing things like this, being rooted, creating things, maybe even creating physical things rather than digital things.
Did you want me to respond to that?
Well, you can get in line if you like.
Okay, yeah.
Are you in
You
line?
asked my question, so please.
Okay, so there's a whole big tribe of people like me, and they're varying degrees of me. Yes, I think I am on the polar end of an extreme. You know, I've actually been in about 23 locations around the whole North American continent in the last 19 weeks. So that means I'm shifting location on average every 4 to 8 days lately. Normally, I would go and live in a place for sort of 2 to 6 months, and I love doing that. Like, I love living somewhere. Like, I'm just being in a home where I'm at the moment for about 10 days. And I've been living in San Francisco for about 3 weeks, and this is just blowing my mind because that's a long time for me at the moment. So I guess I've got other friends though who do this, and they build businesses, and they live in Thailand, and they're from England, and they stay there and they build a team up, and then they basically live there for years and years, and then they relocate and move down to New Zealand. I've got a friend who's doing that. So I know people who use this lifestyle where they basically go and there we go. build things, and then they shift and they use economics to make things go further.
Two quick questions. So, have you ever even like this thought came to your mind on like thinking about settling down, living in a place for like more than a year? And second is, I forgot to answer that.
Okay. Well, again, I'm unusual because I did all that. I lived somewhere for 18 years, had a family, did the whole thing, had all the mortgages, had all the staff, and I've done all that. So, not doing that again. Just the movement from now on endlessly, because I know what it's like. Yeah. But the thing is, I'm not attached to that, so I might stop. I might settle down somewhere, but there's just like only if it occurs to me something to do, because I know what it's like. Yeah.
We'd love to hear some more people if anyone would like to come up.
Who's coming in?
Awesome. Cool. So I admire this lifestyle and did live it for quite a bit. But as Edric said, I think I wanted to optimize the impact more, which is why I'm here now. But the thing that I feel like would be very difficult to optimize for is around building a family. So can you tell us a little bit about the life you had before this, and how it actually led to having a family and transitioning into this?
You can use some of Michael's time if you want. You have 20 seconds.
Okay, so again, really, I'm not a good model for this either, because I spent the entire time I was having my family raising that, just wanting to do this. So from the get-go, I wanted to live like this, and I had a family, which is the complete opposite, really, of doing this. I have friends who have 3 kids and are living in Thailand, and I know people who do travel and they have their kids and so forth. I didn't happen to do that, and I did actually find it very difficult, because my nature was somebody who wanted to move and travel. And so, there we go.
Okay, bringing a different kind of perspective of things that I want out of life. I love the idea of traveling. I love the idea of especially chasing sensory experiences that I couldn't get anywhere else, seeing things I couldn't see anywhere else. But I organize and prioritize my life around the people who are most important to me, which is like 3 or 4 different people. So I think that I could only enjoy this type of lifestyle if I got to take them with me, which isn't particularly realistic, I think, for the type of people that they are. But for another perspective.
I basically had my favourite person, who was my girlfriend at the time, and I was with her for 4 years, and so I just paid for it because I wanted her to come with me. So one solution for this, if you want it, I'm not saying you should do this, but one solution is you can just make a whole lot of money and just bring a lot of money to you.
I'm curious what one can do in the course of an afternoon to get ourselves on track to modeling this as close as possible and see if it's congruent. In an afternoon as one time frame, we could dedicate towards pursuing this, as well as we could do over the course of the week.
Hang on, so do you mean you want to deconstruct all this into steps over an afternoon to figure out exactly how to model it out for yourself?
Well, no, like what you would say, like in 10 steps, like right now, to get on course for something like that.
What would you spend an afternoon doing?
Like you could start
out
with
an afternoon and you wanted to work on getting one.
Okay, so I've got 44 seconds to answer that. Basically, obviously, I think income is a key, because basically the possessions, the bag, and everything is pretty easy. But you figuring out exactly how you're going to be generating an income is a key, and things like building a business online, renting out places using Airbnb and renting them out again. There's a number of key factors, and so that's what you would brainstorm that, and from there you'd that would be one of the key steps, because or hang on, just quickly, you could save up $10,000 and go and live in Thailand for 2 years. 2 years living in Thailand with $10,000 like a king or queen, and use that entire time, because you've got 24 months of space to figure out exactly what you want to do, and you could keep stuffing up for 18 months until you nail in those last 6 months, and I reckon you would. Do you reckon? So that's another solution.
Responding to your answer about paying everything for your girlfriend at the time and traveling together, how did that change your power dynamic?
Right. Oh goodness. Okay, so I basically did put I put a time limit to it, even though I went over that, so I didn't really respect that. At the end of it, she did leave me because she couldn't handle me doing that anymore. She said to me, "I don't want you to keep paying for everything," and even though I taught her everything about how to run a business online, she said to me that she didn't want to do that. So she did everything, she built it all up. But at the end of the day, she said it wasn't for her, and because it wasn't for her, and she no longer wanted me to keep paying for her, she said to me, "This isn't working," and because I knew what I wanted to keep doing, hence we separated. So it worked until the plans stopped. Make sense?
I'd like to hear a 44-second story about your biggest regret or your biggest triumph. Take 2 seconds.
My biggest triumph is like, okay, my biggest regret. That's a weird one because I don't really live in regret anymore. That's kind of all fallen away. I mean, perhaps it was that I didn't start doing all this a lot sooner. Perhaps it's that I'm only talking to 30 of you instead of 3,000 of you. But I'm working on that. And so my biggest triumph was accomplishing my complete life's goal a few months ago, which was to wake up.
Cool. So, question I was going to ask is, firstly, what can we expect by looking at this guide? And the second question was, what was it you were doing before you started actually doing remote work?
Right, so in this guide I've got 10 steps that I'll walk you through a bunch of the things we're talking about here, and that's really all I need to say about that. And what was the other question?
What were you doing for work before you started making it remote?
Okay, well I was running a web design shop in Brisbane, and I was I had a team there, I had staff, I had clients, and so basically I was just doing everything to prep and train for this. It was all about, but even there I was outsourcing. So I was in a city and I was outsourcing work to India and places around the world. So I was, but before that I was just doing everything actually myself. So I was the one who was doing all the work to build digital products, and so that's what I was doing. And before that I was doing technical writing, and before that I was an actor. So, yeah.
Hi, so I noticed that you mentioned like pattern recognition and observing the patterns and recognizing them. So I really dig that, and I see that in like finance and looking at patterns for like stocks and stuff. So I guess it kind of like applies everywhere. Can you tell us about kind of like awakening and developing our pattern recognition skills?
Wow, in 44 seconds. Okay, so those books I mentioned earlier at the beginning by Jed McKenna, which have been a key for me, and again I'm not even recommending you read these books because these books are terrifying, but in there he talks about pattern recognition and basically living from the patterns. So I started applying that, which means giving up all rules, all plans, all goals. They all go out the window because suddenly I'm just looking at the patterns, and the patterns they start inside that, living at that edge, because it's really an edge. Suddenly life starts showing up only as patterns. People start coming to you and they start saying things, and you hear it again, you go, what, there's a pattern happening here. And then there's really three key areas for the pattern recognition. There's the mental and the emotional, there's the body, and there's the outside feedback. So the combination of these three, outside feedback, internal, and the body, those three things reveal the pattern of what to do next.
Really cool. So I went to a meditation talk yesterday, and it was about power and basically your capacity to influence your life. And we ended the talk, each person said, if I owned my power, I would. And then, so I feel like you've really done that. I feel like you're in touch with your own personal power. And some things that you've said have led me to believe that you're into meditation. So I'm wondering what your background is, or how often you do it, how does it influence your life?
Cool. Yes, meditation has been my foundation for all my adult life. I do 2 hours a day. I've been doing that for 24 years. I go on multiple retreats whenever I can. About to go on one in for 7 days. Sometimes I go to India for 7 weeks of silence. So meditation is an absolute key. It's like, I think it's what's enabled me to tune into my body and actually develop a very powerful intuition and a feeling, so when I was back to the pattern recognition, I think meditation can be extremely useful for that. Definitely though, however, I used to be so into meditation that I was not paying attention to my intuition. So it can also be an obstacle. Everything can be profoundly useful and also an obstacle. So meditation is one of those things, but it still brings us closer to the truth if we really keep an open mind.
Just line up the end. Aditi, are you joining this lineup?
Yeah.
Okay, you'll be the end of the line.
Okay.
And then we're gonna
Okay.
we'll have to catch Barnaby in person after that.
I'm curious about, like, have you noticed, you're talking about like pattern recognition. Do you notice broader pattern recognition like the last 2 years? What you've done?
Well, okay.
Like, where has your life gone?
So I guess there was definitely a trajectory which started off when I left Australia of pursuing freedom, and then I started reading some books, and it just kind of led me completely going down the wormhole. And so the trajectory, the broader trajectory was freedom. What would that mean if it went to the ultimate conclusion, and then allowing everything to just spiral in that direction until it took me to Mexico and then spat me out a different person. So yes, the bigger picture was there, and I was just falling into that.
So if and when you choose to transition from this lifestyle to a different one, what will have caused it, and what will that different lifestyle look like?
Okay, well I have no idea what the other lifestyle would look like, would I? Because basically it would just be completely created from the pattern recognition. And so how would I find it? Through the pattern recognition. So it's because I'm open to anything happening, and because I'm just listening from those three places of the body, the mental, and what's happening out here, then it would be purely like created from that, and I would do it for however long that was being indicated.
I'm curious if there's anything that you thought or felt has been missing from here that you would add now, and also how can all of us and the people who are watching in the future help you with your projects?
Cool. Yes, there's no doubt a bunch of things that are missing from this because it's very practical in the sort of, and I like to be really practical. I like to talk about things that you can use here and now. It isn't in the realm of esoteric, which is probably actually where I live from these days, and so that will be another project to write and share more about that. How you could all help is start really tuning in to your own truth and start living from your own pattern recognition, and then and building that own confidence, and then sharing that with more people. Because when people see that you're living from a powerful place and that you're really tuning into yourself, and no one can share, I don't know what that is for you, but then the confidence you have with that, then you'll be a light shining for others.
Just as a quick comment to make, I know you said that the U.S. was a very dangerous country, but I do want to point out that a lot of countries have unreported crime, and the crime rates are not reported in the same way. So I just want to point that out, that is something to keep in mind, and especially against certain groups, possibly there's a lot of crimes that go unreported. So just to keep it grounded a little bit.
So, in great salon tradition, we're now going to rise and give Barnaby a high five. Woo! So feel free to mingle, hang out, storm Barnaby with more questions, talk amongst yourselves, and what's fun for you?
Hey,